How you doing? All right, so we'll get started for November 28th Finance Committee meeting at 6:30. Counselor Leahy, Tallman, Lopez, McGee. I'm sure Linda will be here. So with that, make a motion to open the Finance Committee. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Go right down the agenda, unless you guys want to make changes, but agenda item number 1, make a motion to move from the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Order that the auditor confirm the true nature of the Wisteria Hearst revolving account that are used to help pay for salaries. If there are no accounts, then the revolving fund should be established. So Bellamy is here. Bellamy, come on in, or whatever you like to do. We did get an email. I know that was forwarded around to everybody.
I submitted
Yeah.
an email.
Yeah.
I filed it with the city clerk as information.
Yeah.
That should detail all that you need.
So,
Let's go ahead and talk about it.
so we do have a revolving fund for their collecting when they do
Yeah,
what?
I'm not sure when it was set up, but it was prior to 2001. That's the earliest record we have in the auditor's files of the use of that fund, so it predated that. I'm assuming it was set up at the time that Wisteria Hearst was donated to the city of Holyoke or something like that. I'm not exactly sure the history of Wisteria Hearst and Holyoke, but it was probably set up at that time.
And what funds go in there specifically?
Okay. 4 different kinds of things. Event rentals, in other words, when they rent out a room, let's say, for people to have a meeting in, rental goes in there according to a formula that Wisteria Hearst gets 25% of the rental and the city gets 75%. This is consistent with other parts of the city that rent out space, and basically they get income to cover the cost of janitorial services to clean up afterwards. Second, Wisteria Hearst collects admission fees for events, so if they're scheduling a tour or some event like that, they get admission fees that go into this fund. Third, they get income from tickets to events such as performances that they might have on the grounds of Wisteria Hearst. And fourth and last, they get donations from folks who want to give to the institution.
Okay.
And it averages between $40,000 and $50,000 a year in total for that, for those different kinds of income.
Sure, Jimmy.
So, Bellamy, thank you for that. So it's about $40,000 that's coming in. What's going out?
Let's ask the expert, because I am not the expert at that, and Kate's here, so let's have her tell us exactly what's going out.
Okay, come on in.
I just assume you know every answer of it.
No, I didn't know. I'm focused on the income because that's what you asked. I didn't look at the expenses.
It's not on.
Jimmy, and
Mike. It's not on.
well, you need it on.
Oh, sorry.
Sure. Can you get by?
Good evening. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Well, thank you. Just, I know it was something we had asked, but Bellamy gave a great breakdown of the 4 different revenue streams. Just wondering how much of that money is going out.
Yeah, so we spend about 25,000 of it goes to match the city's allocation towards the part-time staff salaries. So that's the bulk of it. The rest of it goes back into programming. So we use it to pay performers who are there. We use it for some advertising, not a lot, but things like that to support programming mostly. If we did have a major preservation need or fix or something going wrong with the building, we could also take it out of there.
And do you see any of that in the near future? I mean, I was there.
There's constant building needs,
Constant,
yeah. A lot of that we fundraise for separately though, or the foundation, the private foundation is helping us with that. So it really depends. The biggest thing that's coming out of it is supporting staff at Wisteria Hearst.
All right, I mean, that's all the questions I have.
Okay, anyone have questions? No? Okay, so Bellamy, around 2001, the account was somewhat set up.
Well, it was set up before that. That's the first reference.
Yeah,
Paperwork I can find about it, but it already existed in 2001. There were some notes that Brian had written about something that happened that year, so.
And with that, how long back or when did we start paying out for part-time staff from this account?
For staffing purposes and questions about that, I looked back 5 years and it was always paid out and matched out of that account. I don't know before that when it started,
The 25,000 was always paid out?
but for at least the last 5 years.
So from the revolving account, we're paying out 25,000 a year to how many staff at that time? Just go back 6 years, 5 years, whatever you want.
So at its peak, there were 9 staff being paid from that, in combination with the seasonal money. Now there's 3. And then there's also, if it's an event rental, there's a little extra money for some per diem help just for those events. So however you want to calculate that.
And now pursuant to, they're part of a union or part of the budget? So prior to this, they weren't union, but now they're unionized?
Prior to this, they were classified as seasonal temporary, working year-round. Now they're classified as part-time, and they're part of the clerical union.
And they all can receive benefits?
Correct.
Are they all receiving benefits now? No? None of the 3?
Not that I know of at this time.
Can we follow up on that and get that answer?
Sure.
All right, any other questions?
Make a motion to approve it.
Well, it's already been approved. No one was sure where the money was coming
Oh.
from to.
I make a motion to be confirmed with? Complied with?
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
How much money we have in that account now? Do you know an idea?
Good question. I should have looked that up. It's around 50 right now. We have not started drawing from it, so we usually spend the first half of the year filling it and the second half of the year spending it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Peter?
Just a quick question. Thanks for coming down and explaining this to us. I'm just looking at the budget book, and I have 2 employees listed. So who would the other employees be? Are they program or seasonal help?
This should be,
Part-time?
so there's 2 full-time, and they're not they don't get paid out of, one is me, they don't get paid out of the revolving fund at all.
3?
Then there's 3 part-time.
Okay, so temporary and seasonal help it's considered?
That's
That's what it's in
For
listed
the-
at.
what it was listed at, but now they're,
For this year's budget, it's listed as part-time help.
Part-time help?
So they were under seasonal, they were classified under seasonal temporary, but working part-time year-round. So it was partially a corrective to a bad practice.
Because on the budget for this year, it says request was 15,000 and 15,000 was approved by the mayor, although 25,000 was last year's. So is there,
It's different than the revolving account, though.
I was
I think what
here
this
for that
is-
hearing. There was an additional amount that was requested by the mayor that was 15,000 in seasonal temporary, and that was cut during the budget process. And the other part-time salaries, which were broken out as 850, and 8,000, are still there. They're still on my budget sheet.
yeah, if, remember, there was 2 different ones, and we cut one, and then we kept these as the part-time.
Right. Oh, that's the
slash, whatever we're
85.
calling
Yeah.
them. which then became that they were now going to be under a union contract. How did that come about? 'Cause I wasn't in the meeting with Kevin. How did they ultimately wind up in a union?
That was negotiations. I don't know if you want to speak to it.
But yeah, remember we
Oh, we
cut the
cut it, yeah,
budget and then
some, yeah.
we left those as that to give the 15.
Okay.
Is that on? Hello? Yes. So, and we discussed this at a prior meeting, I believe. This was, it was a settlement to resolve a Department of Labor charge. The union was looking for additional positions because we had taken some away through we haven't filled positions in other departments where they weren't needed. So they were looking to add additional positions, and they were making claim to Wisteria-Hearst positions. So we agreed to put them in that union to resolve the outstanding DLR charge.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the motion was that item number 1 is complied with.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
Can we go out of order and take care of the chief?
Sure.
No, not at all. No, not him. No. Oh, he's here. Ah, man. Just kidding, Chief.
He's got about 5 things in there, I think.
Oh, he does?
We can.
It was number 10 already.
No, he's got a couple.
No. So, Counselor, if you want to,
Make a motion that we go to item number 10. I think that's the one.
what about
2, 8, 9, and 10, I think.
2? 8, 9, 10? Is that what you're looking for, Counselor?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so motion is go out of order and take up items 2, 8, 9, and 10. We'll go in that order. All's in favor? All's
Aye.
opposed? All right, so item number 2, make a motion to remove from the table.
So
All's in
moved.
favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Order that in accordance with Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accept the 911 Department Support and Initiative Grant. Chief, how are you?
Good evening, councilors. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Well, it's fine. For the 911 grant, which one is this for again?
It's $150,000 to $400,000. It's for to offset costs of dispatchers, overtimes, salaries,
Just dispatchers?
just
So
dispatchers,
you're all right.
All right, okay.
and equipment in there.
Yeah, this came up last year, so it's like kind of a revolving one.
Um,
every year? Remember last year,
no,
you
so-
gave us the report on what equipment you were going to buy?
Right,
and-
so
okay.
I'll go back in time.
Okay.
There was a point, it was a revolving time when we would get it, but because it was revolving under a previous administration, it never came to you.
Yep.
We tried to be a little bit more transparent so you would see this every year and get an understanding what we're doing with it. So that's kind of where we're at.
So last year, when we accepted it, it went towards dispatchers and equipment, and then you sent in a letter as to what equipment you're going to get. This year, what's the 150 going to go towards?
Right now, it's probably primarily for dispatchers, not equipment.
Just only, okay. And let me see here. There's no match on this one.
Correct.
Any questions for the chief? Anyone? No?
I mean,
there a
make a motion to accept the grant?
My motion is to accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
It is what it is.
Next is going to number 8. Make a motion to move item number 8. All those in favor? All opposed? This one is the 2017 Bryan grant. Did I say
Byrne.
that correctly?
Byrne.
Byrne. I always get it wrong. One of these days I'll get it right. All right, Chief, want to give us an update on this one?
Sure. We were able to get this grant last year to the same dollar amount, $100,000. Last year, what it did was it provided us with our mobile community policing unit to get out there. Last year, we had it designated, this grant money last year was designated for just South Holyoke. Crime numbers, we actually did pretty well in reductions done. We're trying to expand it citywide. So it's the same dollar money this year, only the program can now, it's not restricted to South Holyoke. We can run it citywide. partners in this grant are the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club, Holyoke Safe Neighborhood Initiative, Gondera Mental Health. It allows us to do some community policing outreach that we desperately need, and as most of you know, I no longer have a full-time community policing unit. We rolled that back into regular patrol, so this lets us try to bridge that gap. And there's no matching funds on this.
Any questions for the chief on this one? Peter?
Yeah, Chief, this money is it, you administer the grant? Is it through you, or is it through the Boys Club or Boys and Girls Club? Or how does this actually
Yeah,
work?
It's through the police department. We're the physical managers and also control of the grant. So we have these other partners that are sub-grantees. to our
Okay,
grant.
so they do you give a share of the
Recipients.
recipients of the grant?
Yeah, each member of the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club and Gondera each will receive 17,500. Holyoke Safe Neighborhood will receive 5,000, and we'll have 60,000 out of that.
And when does this start, this money, the grant start? Was it in the new year, or?
Upon approval,
So it'll come in right,
city approval, yeah, we're just waiting for the final contract to come in, and on that contract date, the signed contract date is actually the start of the program.
okay, thank you.
So just on those numbers, 60 to the police, 17.5, 17.5, and then 5,000. And how does their money get allocated out through the group? That they spend it how they need, or does it go with your programming?
It's all reimbursable, so they'll submit an invoice to us for their costs accrued, and we'll submit a total quarterly invoice to the state and get reimbursed.
So they're going to do mobile outreach with us.
They'll do the outreach?
So,
Okay.
and they're going to have outreach workers engaging the kids, the youth in the community. That's the whole part of it.
This wouldn't be going to overtime for either of my brothers, would it?
It could be. It could be.
Any other questions?
Motion that we approve the grant.
All right. So the motion is to approve, and it was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
All right, so yes is Linda, Peter, Giustato, Todd. So that passes 4-0-1. Will abstain. Take a motion to remove item number 9 from the agenda, which is the 2017 911 training grant. Is this different, Chief, or same as the first one, or?
It's just a little different.
Okay, just making sure it wasn't a duplicate, so turn it over to you.
Okay, again, it's reimbursable, there's no matching funds. It's to pay for dispatcher training and any holes that creates if the dispatcher is off in training to backfill those overtime costs. They're mandated 16 hours of training a year by the state, and it helps fill those holes.
This one was for?
$27,351.
Yeah.
All right, so this is gonna go to train them. How many dispatchers do we have again?
We're supposed to have 12, right now we're at 9.
9.
Really, wow.
We hope to be at 12, like, soon, but it's just, we hire one goes to leave to be a police officer, one leaves for other reasons, and some have medical issues, and,
But do we have 3 coming in, or
we have,
posted, or?
we have 2 coming in. We're probably gonna have to have a third one come in.
Okay.
But
Any other questions for the chief?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
So I remember years ago, I had to use 911, and when I did it, it sent me up to the state police. is that still the, so if is that still the case? If I use 911, would I get sent to the Hoyoke Dispatch, or would I get sent to the state police?
I believe it gets sent to the state police. The whole E911 system, the state's been trying to roll out for some time, where it's supposed to be able to take care of all that, along with text messaging and everything else. That's coming. As a matter of fact, that's coming soon here. All the great things that it's supposed to do aren't going to be available right away. They're just trying to get the system up. We're actually like one of the first police departments in Western Mass to get it. It's not here yet, but
And I know the radios is a different issue, and I look forward to that meeting as well. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so motion is to
Accept,
approve.
approve and accept the grant?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And then the last one, item number 10, make a motion for move from the table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? This is order that Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, that we accept the 2007 Bulletproof Vest Partnership.
correct.
Want to tell us a little bit about that, Chief?
This pays for half the cost of a vest. The dollar amount available to us is $20,000. There is a match. We have to find the money to pay up the other half. But to me, this is half the cost. If we don't take advantage of this, I've got 100% of the cost, as opposed to 50% of the cost. I actually don't think we will need the whole 20,000. By my estimates, we'll need about 15. We're looking to replace 37 vests this year, because we have to replace so many every year. And they have a 5-year life. And we priced this out, we spent about 30 this year, which really means we'd only need 15 of the grant, even though it's for 20. So we wouldn't, but we'd have to find the other 15 somewhere in the budget. But again, it's
Fundraiser for that?
never done that.
I mean, back when I first became city councilor, we did that. We had a person who wrote a grant, and then we raised some extra funds on the side. You know, I think that, you know, as a person who's in marketing, I'm thinking that would be, I don't want to put myself, I'm on a lot of different committees.
Can I have a checkbook right now?
I don't want to be the chairperson of this committee, but I'm thinking, I don't think that would be a hard thing to fundraise for.
No, I don't. And of course, I would certainly
Not sure if that's legal
consult with the
anymore.
law department, and we want to make sure we do everything
Okay.
within the state ethics. I'm not going to ask Sarah for an opinion right now.
Oh, you guys, I don't think can go knocking on doors because of the whole, like, program book type of thing and whatnot. But an average person like Jimmy Leahy, or I shouldn't say John Smith could
Right.
go. Just a thought.
So, Chief, just so we can tell the other members who couldn't make it tonight, this is going to replace 37 vests at about 30,000. I'm not going to hold you to true numbers. So 15,000 is going to go to that. What happens to the other 5 for this grant? It's a $20,000 grant.
It's reimbursable, so we'll never see it, be quite honest
So
with
we
you.
can't get more vests, though? or-
We could. I can buy more vests,
Why
but then
wouldn't
but then I still got to come up with more money.
More money, yeah.
Yeah, but
Talk to me.
Okay?
my whole point is, as you just said, if we don't accept anything,
Right,
it's 100% on you.
right.
So the full 30,000. Whereas if we get, I'm making up numbers, we get, 45 vests, cost you the
20.
40,000, you get to use the whole 20. Yeah, I know we're 20 on the hook, but it would have cost you 40. Plus, we got, in my fact pattern, 10 more vests or 7
Right.
more vests, brand new vests to make sure they're safe.
Well, we can certainly do that. And the other thing we were looking to do this year is buy a different level vest for the cruisers that's rated at a higher rate. So in case things were going bad, they'd have other equipment available to the officers. And we could certainly look at doing that.
And in addition to that, we also look forward, like the chief said, they expire every 5 years. So if we, let's say, do 50% now and 50% next year, then 5 years down the road, we're gonna have to have that big, huge expense again. So we're trying to cut it down to a third, so we have less expense come the next.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if we
Round.
buy the little extra. Can any of these vests go towards the auxiliary police? Or,
They have their own separate BVP grant,
okay,
which operates the same way. However, we paid for their half
last year, I think it was.
Okay, so you did pay for that
Yeah,
half
oh,
last
yes,
year.
oh, yeah.
Okay, I mean, my vote would be is get as many as
Okay.
invest as possible, and Jimmy's gonna cut you a check for the difference, so, I mean, you're
I'm
good.
actually texting my partner now. We could talk about the legal department and see if that's something we could do. I mean, her and I, we're co-marketing directors for St. Patrick's. We could raise $1 million, and we do it every year. So was it $15,000?
Or 20.
20 now.
20.
I put you on the hook, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, man.
All right. We'll talk later about this.
Okay, I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Any other questions, or?
Is it possible to look into community, CDBG grants or community development block grant money, or that's completely out of the question?
As far as that, we're already receiving $10,000 for community policing walking beats.
Did, probably get yelled at by you guys. Did you ask the mayor already for the free cash allotment for the 20 or 15?
No.
Are you hesitant to ask?
I was, well, I'd like to get back on the car issue, but that's a whole.
I'm trying to get you there. I'm not trying to joke, I know we joke around, have some fun here, but free cash is, we just got the heads up that supposedly tomorrow, the report will come in, and by Thursday, it'll be supposedly approved by the state, so then we'll have a free cash, whatever that number is still a mystery. So technically Thursday, we're gonna have the numbers. Tuesday, it'll be filed for the city council to take up and technically have the free cash, whatever that magical number is, to then start making those requests. I mean, to me, vests are a priority, so are cars. So I'm all in support, unless Jimmy can offset that number.
I can't buy cars.
But my thing is, I would make that request, that would be my suggestion.
Okay, and no, I appreciate that, and we can certainly do that. And just, our priorities, as you know, cars,
Yeah.
radios, vests, those are all big-ticket items, unfortunately.
Yep. Understandable. Sure.
Motion to accept the grant.
Motion to accept is seconded. All's in favor? All opposed? Was that it, chief?
That's it, thank you, counselors.
All right, thank you.
But when you need the 20,000, I just want to make sure he gets a deadline. No, just kidding.
I have to, yeah, we'll talk.
All right, so we'll go back to number 3. So item agenda number 3, make a motion to move from the table. And that is order that we accept the Jackson Street Sewer CSO abatement grant. All those in favor? All those opposed? Mike? I think this is you? All right, so it says that we received a grant for $121,000. The grant is in addition to the 186 received in May. These funds will be used to hire Ty and Bond to advance the final design of the project. It should be noted that there is insufficient budget to complete the final design. An additional $129 will be required to complete the permitting, surveying, so on and so forth. So with that, I'll turn over to you. You want to tell us a little bit about not only the grant, but where we're trying to go with this?
Sure.
Sorry. There you go. We've been given a subsequent grant to advance the final design.
So this will be the final design? What's the in addition?
129 would complete the final design, so the key parts of that additional 129 would be the permitting and the technical specifications and details of the construction. The grant that we would be using now, the 121,000, would be used mostly for layout and profiles of the new sewer. The previous money was used for surveying and development of base plans.
So I guess with this grant, we accept the 121, then what would be where would the 129 be coming from? The bond that is currently on the table?
In the bond, there's 3.5 million for Jackson Street sewer separation. That would be mostly for construction. The 129, I think we would be looking for other grants out there.
Okay, then that leads to where I was trying to go with it, which is if we accept the 121, now we're looking for another grant for the 129. We're not going to be in violation of anything from this grant because we're trying to do the next phase. Okay. Hey, Linda?
So, Mike, is this the next largest one after the first project that we did? So will we be getting a good percentage resolved with this one?
I'm not sure,
Oh, okay.
so I
I was
can't
just
really
wondering.
answer that question. I just know that this was the next one in the queue.
So hopefully it is, right?
Jackson Street is a large area. It's pretty much from Cabot all the way to 391.
But would make sense.
Diosdado?
So, Mike, do you have any idea how much will be the total of the project? Because going back with Bill in the past, it was between $3 and $5 million. Oh, is those are the number, or?
Those are the numbers for construction.
Okay, so,
We have a cost estimate that was developed back in 2000 as part of the draft long-term control plan. And if we escalate the costs from that, we would be looking in the $5 million range.
are we getting any fine from the state? Because I know the Jackson Street go not far from the river there and all that. We're not getting anything from the state, any fines or anything like that, you know?
Fines or
Yeah.
funds?
Fine. I mean,
Currently, there's no fines. I mean, we continue to have CSOs.
No, I know.
And it's, it's always being monitored.
Thank you.
It seems like it gets us partway there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and then we just try to get it finished. So I'll make a motion to accept
Second.
it. As long as there's no match and you don't need other cash to make it happen.
No, it's just a straight grant.
Thank you.
All right, so the motion was to approve this grant. Is there a second?
Second. There's no matching on this?
No.
No, okay. then.
I don't see any. There's no match, right? No, I don't see any on the sheet. All right, so motion is to accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Item number 4, motion removed from the table.
Second.
All those in favor, all
Aye.
opposed? From Councilor Lopez, that the mayor and legal department put together only one claim agreement for all the complaints related to the Essex House. So, remove from the table, I'll turn it over to Councilor Lopez.
Thank you. Yeah. Any updates or any? If you're able, I know that Mike Sullivan is not here, but he filed that order to see if we can use some of the money from the bonding and all that.
So, I've been preparing documents, but we haven't started negotiations with Ms. De Jesus, which is the one that's outstanding, per our last conversation. We do need to wait for free cash for both that and the settlement for Jose Bao for Salsa Renge. So, that was the mayor's intent, was to wait for free cash for that. So, you will probably see them in the next couple weeks.
So just for the people at home, because, give them an update. With regards to Essex House, you have the Maria Ferreira claim that we're looking to see if the bonding can cover that. That's around 247,000. Now we have additional claims. Can you state who they are making claims?
Sure. The claim from, so there are some claims that have been resolved already. We have the residents that were displaced from Ms. De Jesus' building who lived upstairs. Those have been resolved because we paid the cost of putting them up in a hotel. There was a church that was relocated from 396 High Street. They received a relocation assistance in the amount of $1,000. So that's resolved as well. There is the outstanding settlement of the owners of 394 to 396 High Street of $270,000. There is there was a settlement with Mr. Bao of the Salsa Renge restaurant. He's the tenant at 390, 392 High Street. That's an amount of $20,000. That's going to be submitted to the council for requesting appropriation from free cash. We also have the MD Beauty Salon is still essentially still has claims to expenses because we haven't settled the other claims, so those expenses of the rent essentially have been continuing. Old San Juan Bakery has given us a presentment letter, and Ms. De Jesus has given us notice of her claim as well.
Ms. Jesus?
What was the last one?
Ada De Jesus.
And she's the owner of Old San Juan?
She's the owner of 390, 392 High.
393, okay, that's what I was looking for.
Can you go over the numbers? I mean, Ada, how much she wants?
Because it's a negotiation, I
Okay,
prefer not to
all right,
discuss
all
the
right.
specific numbers.
And the same thing with Old San Juan?
Yep.
So Old San Juan and Ms. De Jesus, those numbers we don't know yet
Correct.
because they're in negotiation.
Correct.
But Salsa Merengue is 20,000.
Yep. Additionally, this afternoon, we received notice of, it's a presentment letter from the owners of 394, 396 High, so that's with the settlement, that's before the council now. A presentment letter it has to be filed to preserve their rights. In case they do want to sue in the future, they need to be able to preserve their rights, so we did receive that today.
I guess my question is, with regards to the bond, we know Counselor Sullivan filed the order to do that. Has there been any discussion on that? Bless you.
Since his filing the order, I haven't had a discussion with the mayor regarding it, but that money, we are currently in litigation with NASD, because we did file a complaint against NASD. If there were some type of resolution, or if there was a judgment against the city that we have to pay the value left on the contract, that's the money that would be used for that purpose. If that money's not available, we'd have to take it from somewhere else.
Yeah, but the question is, the mayor hasn't reached out to talk to legal yet about using the money?
Well, I have to check with the auditor to see what type of approvals are needed for that to actually take place. I haven't discussed it with the mayor.
Can we get an update? Can you reach out to the auditor?
Absolutely.
And have an update for us by Tuesday?
Yep, I can do that.
Committee did his order go to? Is it in here?
It's a good question. I'll have to. 'Cause I
We
didn't see it.
adopted and sent it to the
I
mayor.
think we received and adopted.
Yeah, we
I
did.
think
Oh,
we
maybe.
received
Yeah,
and
we
adopted
did.
and sent it.
Okay.
So I heard, can I
No, go
ask?
ahead.
You mentioned a number really high, 279. What is that number that you mentioned? 270?
That's
That is-
Ms. Ferrera's.
That's the cost of the settlement.
Oh, okay, that's Maria. And then additional cost because of the rent,
247.
ND?
Well, she hasn't made any additional
She said
claims against the city
247
because
and
this is still pending, but I anticipate that coming if this takes longer.
Okay.
It's about $1,500 a month.
When
was
she was displaced, this is one that we still haven't received an answer on, or maybe I just missed it. We paid for her equipment as well. That's part of the legal settlement, that we're paying for her equipment. She wasn't allowed to go get her stuff, or?
There was, so she was relocated before the collapse. Well, Ms. Ferrara's business was relocated before the collapse. The building is owned by 3 individuals. The business itself was moved. We were able to find another space for it, and we did pay to move some of the equipment down. She couldn't take all the equipment, and there wasn't enough space. And plus, the building additionally had other personal property in it. So it's that personal property that was damaged because of the collapse when that
So
happened.
she didn't take it all, it stayed in the building.
Right.
And what was that type of equipment that was damaged?
I don't know the specifics offhand. I mean, she did have a salon business there. There was also a portion of the building that was used for storage.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, in the sense of, there's a claim of, and I'm making stuff up, chairs and TVs and other boxes got damaged. Who checked it to say the value of that TV that was damaged was $10,000, $2, $5?
We did, I will say that may have been done, Attorney Cunha had worked on that. Let me just see if it's listed in the. So there was a list of lost personal property. I remember seeing it.
Yeah,
It's
I remember
pretty
seeing that, but
extensive.
my question back at Kara, which hasn't been answered yet, is who reviewed the list? Who did the assessment of the value of that list? And who confirmed that that
They-
truly was all the stuff that was
They-
damaged?
Well, they provided the receipts of how much everything costs that was on the list. And I can look into it. I would assume, I know the building commissioner has been in that building, so I can touch base with him to see if he actually reviewed the property.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
looking
there
for.
was some review and there was an exchange between, I believe there was an exchange between Kara and city officials in determining what the value of the personal property to. The other thing is that a settlement is a settlement. It's a kind of like a round resolution of all claims.
Yeah, understandable. We're just trying to make sure that I'm not claiming I had a TV there for $10,000
Right,
when I
no,
had an 18-inch black and white.
I just have a quick question. On the church that was relocated, where did it go? Do we know?
Maybe. It says the place it was, so the establishment that it was renting from when it moved is the Iglesia Cristo es el Camino International Incorporated.
Do we know if they're still there?
I honestly, I don't know.
Thanks.
So I have another question. I know that Ida gave you that letter, keeping her ocean open. Do you know if her building is attached to the building that used to be the ND? Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure that that's gonna be another problem. You know what I mean, the wall there?
I believe that I know it's a budding, I'm not sure if they share a wall. That would be something an engineer would have to see if they share the support wall.
Can you find out from the building department? And my question, can we refuse to take on owner of that building? We don't want it. I mean, can we do that legally?
I mean, we could, if we wanted to settle claims with the property owners and not take the building, we could certainly do that, but it would just end up costing us the same, and we'd have to pay the value for them to repair the building. By taking the building, we're taking possession of it. Of course, we're probably gonna have to pay to either demolish it. We can't really afford to fix it, neither can the property owner at this point, so it seems to be the most cost-effective way to resolve the situation.
Yeah, but my whole issue is, this is gonna be another second round. I mean, if we have to close our Sarenga for 10 days, 20 days, we will have to pay. If if you see the condition of that building, I don't wanna own it. I don't think the city should not own it. But I think we will have to come up with more money to pay so that's gonna be a problem.
Building that
The second building.
Dio's talking about.
Well, Ada de Jesus on where Sarsarengue is, the tall building where the tenants are. And then next door is the vacant building where ND used to be. So I'm pretty sure this is we will be facing a second round of lawsuit.
Who owns that building?
Well, it's Maria Andy Beauty Salon on that vacant building, but now if we pay Maria, we will have to take over, right?
So the proposal was to settle it into, to take the property through eminent domain.
Oh, so you're thinking ahead to the cost of the
Absolutely.
demo.
I don't want it on that building.
It's gonna be another,
And I did speak with the building commissioner about the cost of demolition, and it seems to be about, I think it was $250,000. The good thing is we can apply for grant money to cover some of that. If we weren't taking the building, we would be, I mean, we'd probably end up compensating the property owners for the cost of the repair, which the quote was extraordinarily high. It's because it would have to then comply with all the building codes. So it's a tricky situation.
Do a tables?
No, comply, because I mean, we will be paying Salsarengue and Maria, I hope, right? And then, I'm hoping that you will be able to take care of Ada. And then we will have to, the city will have to deal with Old San Juan. Wow. Let me know when, no, that's okay.
So, Counselor Sina, it's your order, and actually, what we have here is we have two orders by you. They're kind of the same
The same,
thing.
then you can comply, yeah.
So, both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with regards to this, unless anyone has any other questions, anyone? Motion that the order has been complied with. For a second?
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
thank
And
you.
you'll get that answer to us about the, okay, about the auditor and stuff?
Gonna cost $1 million more. Because that building is attached to the
Mr. Chairman, do you want to do 5 and 6 as a package, or is one just a straight duplicate?
Looks like they're a duplicate.
Well, they're
treated the
almost,
same way.
the only
the
thing
same.
that looks
Yeah, they're
different
not the
is
same,
that one has the
really.
name and the date,
Yeah,
but the
that's,
words look the same.
Either one, that's fine with me.
well, it was really, it was by, let's see here.
I just want to see where we are.
Right?
Well, really, it wasn't even by Counselor Lopez, it was Counselor McGee and Leahy.
Oh, okay.
So I think what he meant to do on the agenda is put item 6 as the duplicate that you had,
Yes.
and he actually
Oh.
just duplicated
Oh,
the Park and Rec.
okay,
But
gotcha.
since it's on here like that,
Yeah.
we'll just take up 5 and 6
Okay.
as a package.
So moved.
All right. So make a more, order to move 5 and 6 as a package, because they're the same thing. All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? Order that the DPW or Park and Rec come before the Finance Committee to provide a breakdown of the bond package for the fields, which would be Jones Point, Roberts Field, Crozier Field, and talk about each location, the timeline, et cetera. We did take this up on November 2nd. It was requested to be tabled with regards from the Park and Rec Commissioners to come in, the treasurer, and the school department to discuss the bond and how it was reallocated. So with that, turn it over, actually, from there, what I'll do is I'll just say, for the commissioner that's here, how are you, sir? Good. Since you were here last time, what happened was Joe McGivern and pretty much all of us wanted to know the reallocation for the football field, Roberts Field, went from one amount to another amount. There was a discussion that they changed the field and the type of field that was going to go in there, instead of it being, I'm making up terms like the plastic stuff, if they went to a hard field or what have you, which escalated the cost, which then, I'm not sure why legal took off, who authorized the shifting of the money to say, don't go to Jones Point anymore, put it all at Roberts and Mackenzie? Who made that vote and so on? So that's how it was tabled, and that leads over to you.
Is there a green light showing?
Green light?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Okay, now it is on.
Now it's on.
Well, first of all, let me say, being involved, we had started with Roberts Field and McKenzie, and then started doing tennis courts. We started talking about it 4 years ago. And at that point, we had an estimate of what the cost would be. As it went along, there had been reports and several broadcasts on NBC News primarily, but a few other locations as well, that there was concerns that the field that we had, the rubber surface that we had, was potentially a cancer-causing thing, primarily with women athletes, and primarily soccer players. I think there were 11 or 13 high school and/or college female athletes who had played exclusively on that field and who all had the same kind of cancer. I don't know what the cancer was. So we went into discussions with that. We asked if there were alternatives. Let me also say, before we ever got to that, the original price that we talked about, whether we went to sand, which is what we have, and the sand is a natural sand. Mike would be much better off to explain that than I would, but as opposed to chrome rubber that was, potentially a cancer causing. We came to the conclusion, or we recommended that if we could, we would prefer to go to a field that we knew was safe, and that we weren't going to come a year or 2 or 3 years or down the road and potentially find out that what we had put down there is in fact causing cancer. There have been reports from the, primarily from the chrome rubber industry, saying that they are not cancer causing. It's never been proven, but we felt for the $50,000 or $60,000, we would be better off making sure that we did not have a field that potentially could cause cancer with our athletes. That was a recommendation of the Parks Commission. It was, obviously, we had no control over what the final product was. We also, our recommendation with regard to McKenzie was primarily, let's get the field fixed. That for the athletes, again, the way the field had deteriorated, it was a safety issue in terms of backs, in terms of any baseball player that tried to slide at McKenzie slid one time and said, I don't want to slide again. It was like sliding on concrete. There was I think it was an 11-degree angle coming off of third base and behind the plate, behind first base. What we've tried to do, and I think what they've finally concluded on, was the 1.5% angle, which is the acceptable grade. We also came to the point where if we did not do the outfield, very shortly we would have had to go back and try to do that in order to keep the whole baseball field level. So those things cost some more money as well. Again, we didn't make any of those decisions. We offered our input. We were pretty strong in terms of the safety and the potential of cancer causing. We were very strong on that issue. But as far as I know, it was at that point superintendent and the mayor that made the final decision in terms of what was finally going to be done. The last meeting I had been to, I was still under the impression the tennis courts were being done.
What meeting was it?
I'm going to say that had to be in April or May, right?
It was definitely in the spring, but I don't know the exact.
It was just prior to when they started the Roberts Field stuff, so.
So you had a commissioners meeting, or you had a meeting with the mayor and DPW, or?
I was invited to go to meetings as they were talking about all the projects.
Okay.
So I attended all of those meetings, and then.
The design committee.
Right, and then we brought that information back to the Parks Commission.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you had a design committee meeting once a month or 2 months or whatever?
While they were doing it, it was probably at least once a month. I would say for about 6 months, it was probably once a month.
And at those meetings, you just made recommendations, of which, at the last one in April/May, Roberts was getting done with the new sand. The field was getting a new leveling, which was the dirt and the outfield was being added. And the Crozier tennis courts are being done,
And Jones,
and Jones.
to my knowledge, yeah.
Well, it was all three.
Huh?
All three. All
Yeah.
three tennis courts were designed, and then they went out to bid.
Okay, so at that meeting, they were designed out to bid, they were gonna get done. Okay, how did that change to no tennis courts getting done?
Well, I'm not sure they actually went out to a formal bid to have a project.
No,
When the bids came in for Roberts
yeah.
and Mackenzie, sorry.
Well, the tennis court projects were bid, and there were three bidders. And the bids were substantially higher than what was estimated. We had an estimate of $812,000 to do the tennis courts, the three tennis courts, and the low bid was $1.28 million.
So that's Roberts, Crozier, Jones,
Correct.
1.8 for all three.
Total.
Total,
1.28.
1.28. So no tennis courts were done at all? Or was Roberts done? Or
No,
Crozier?
none of
Nothing
them,
was done.
none of them.
And who made that decision?
None of us.
So no vote was taken by you guys, nothing was discussed, just DPW?
The
I
only,
think it was at that point, there wasn't sufficient project funds in order to advance the tennis courts.
So I guess my question is,
There were also requirements that the construction be completed within a certain time frame, which I've heard, we think complicated the construction, which caused the bids to go higher.
who made that determination?
Which determination?
The time frame?
I don't know.
that
I
was,
do.
and that was part of the whole discussion too.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that Roberts, if we did not do Roberts this year, we were at the point where our athletes were now playing on a field that was at barely safe, if it was still safe. We were getting to that point where the track was being in condition that could cause athletes to get hurt. And in order to avoid losing a season, the only time we could do Roberts was June, July, and early August. And it ended up going later than that. I think it went to almost August 30th or something like that before we actually completed that. And Mackenzie was once the October season got over October 12th or something like that, that we were going to be able to do Mackenzie. I think we actually started it in August, though. So we eliminated Elms College for the fall season so that we could get that field done. So both fields, Roberts for the football, soccer, field hockey would be ready for this fall season, and Mackenzie would be ready for spring. Both appeared, well, I know the Roberts was set, and I think Mackenzie is pretty close to being set. If you go by there, it looks a lot better than what it looked 3 months ago. And if you, but again, those things were, the final actions, once they happened, I mean, again, I was under the impression a lot of these other things were still happening. I would also make one other point, though. When we first started meeting and the first estimates were out, every time we met, the price of things went up prior to the sand. So everything kept getting higher and higher. And we started eliminating, like they talked about they were going to put better lights in Mackenzie. We basically came to the conclusion, no one's complaining about the lights in Mackenzie. The lights in Mackenzie are one of the best lighting systems in the area for baseball. We're more concerned about the field that they're playing on. And so we put the money in there and we took money out of lighting. That also brought us into the men's room on the third base side and taking out the old field house and all those kind of things. And we were trying to, what can we get the maximum return on our investment? And that's basically where we left it. And then after that, the meetings, there were no more meetings that I know of. It was just things were happening.
Yeah, thank you for coming down here. And quite frankly, from the last meeting, this is kind of interesting because the director was saying that you were making all the decisions. And so I would recommend you being at all the meetings. She was saying the commissioners are the ones who are making all the decisions. Am I wrong by saying that?
That's what we.
I don't think I said all the decisions. I think we were talking about the infill at Roberts. I think that was our primary
No,
discussion.
I think every question that was brought up, you pretty much went back and said it was the commissioners.
Commissioners they had formal votes. Like, there was a formal vote, I think in May or June, that the commission recommended the sand infill.
May.
And also, I don't have with me now, but I know there was a list of different items that I asked you to send to us, at least to me, and I haven't received anything
No,
from
I
you
don't
yet.
have them yet.
Do you remember exactly what I was, because I have the list in my portfolio.
Commission minutes,
Right.
I don't even have it with me. I don't think there was much more than the minutes.
Well, I think that was substantial enough.
Well, I think I was really caught off guard with how the question was going at the last meeting, so I was pretty rattled when I left. But I did send an email that within the next few days, just to kind of clarify how things have been working with maintenance projects, with the DPW, and where the Park and Rec Commission comes in.
So let me ask you, sir, the maintenance, I'll give you an example of Jones Point. So neighbors go over and use their weed whackers to cut down the grass that's growing within the tennis court. What are we going to do about that for the next upcoming season?
This is the first I've heard of that.
I've
Yeah, and
let the Parks
neighbors.
and Rec Department know this many times.
Mhm.
Is there some sort of communication breakdown from your department to his?
Absolutely not. No, as a matter of fact, the reconstruction of the courts at Jones Point is in the bond package submitted by the mayor.
I'm talking about the grass. I mean, I've been
know.
vocal about this
Yes, you have been.
for the
and
last 4 years. So the fact that we have a new department head here and he doesn't know anything about this, I think there's a lack of communication.
I can't really address that. Mike has just come on board in the last few months. Prior to his arrival, there was great communication with the superintendent and the Parks Department and the Park and Rec Commission.
So basically, you're saying that there's shrubs and stuff growing, grass growing in the tennis court itself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Terry, yeah, it's in the basketball courts down there. It's been completely neglected, and I'm kind of surprised too because we had I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning her name. One of my great constituents, Julia Flannery, back when Bill Fuquay was here, we actually had, and there's a plethora of emails, an email chain. She actually had the USTA, United States Tennis Association, either offering support to write grants or actually writing the grants to help pay for these tennis courts. And that just got, nothing ever happened with that.
Actually, I only going to go by my memory.
Yeah.
But we did discuss that, and I'm almost positive that when Bill was still here, that he had spoken with or
he
written
did.
with and applied for a grant to the U.S. Tennis Association. And I'm gonna say that I think their indication was we may be able to apply for more, but we needed to get the entire project together before we could do it. And I could be wrong on that, but we did follow up on that. I know,
Yes, we did.
and Bill followed up on that.
Yeah,
so.
we
Now,
met
let
with
me-
her, and what we did was we found out the criteria to get any kind of reimbursement from the USTA. So the project was stalled, but
And I can confirm that a grant was applied for, but it was not approved.
So, anyone have any questions before I go?
I just wanna ask you, Terry, the design committee, do you have any minutes or who was there in that? Anyone from the school department, or it was you?
No, there was,
There was somebody from the school?
yeah, first of all,
Yeah.
Bill coordinated the design committee. It was Bill, the city engineer, director of athletics,
Okay.
Terry, myself, John Toohey was there, the
Counselor Bartley was,
contractor.
Counselor
BSC,
Bartley
the
was the city
consultant.
council representative too.
Okay. So
He
do
went
you-
to several of the meetings.
Do you know if there's any minutes or anything?
No,
we-
that was one of the things that Counselor Leahy had asked, but I don't think Bill ever had any minutes unless you've seen them.
I can look and see if there are minutes.
You check and see if
yeah,
there's
see.
any, and my questions, I just want to see how we can move forward. I mean, whoever did it, it's done. I just want to find out what's going to happen to Mackenzie. Are we going to be able to replace the bathroom and that bathhouse there? Are we be able to do that in the spring, or what's the plan?
The replacement facility is currently being designed, and we intend to do the demolition over the winter and construction of the new facility in the spring.
But you have limited funds on that one,
We do have limited funds.
which is 180.
No, it's,
But it was 300 and something.
yeah,
That's what I
380.
thought, yeah. 180 is not going to do much.
What is 300 gonna do?
No, not much. I know. You probably will
So,
demolish it and.
See, now we're going back to memory. You came in for the original bond to tell us about it. Of which Jones Point was referenced as, you had a wish list, all you got was Crozier, McKenzie, Roberts, and that was it. Jones Point should be done. Of which he championed in order to get Jones Point put onto it. So we redid the bond to add Jones Point, which was part of your wish list. You sat there. Memory's good for me.
Okay.
We got it. We redid the language to the bond to incorporate that project. In your meetings, did you guys vote to reallocate
No.
money?
No.
Okay, so it wasn't you. That's easy enough.
Like I said,
Wait a
the only formal vote recommendation that we made was that we use sand instead of the chrome rubber because of the health issues. That's the only material change that we made. We discussed whether or not we should have concession stands at McKenzie and restrooms at McKenzie. And to my knowledge, to my recollection, we basically said, and Hoyo Blue Sox were also at a couple of these meetings.
Yeah,
I'm
they
gonna
were.
say, just now I think about it.
Can we get a breakdown exactly how much we spend on Mackenzie and how much extra we spend from the other tennis courts and all that? It will be a good idea to find out exactly how much money went into the project and why the other 3 tennis courts never happened. Because, I mean, the way, what I'm hearing now is you will be playing in the dirt. There will be no basketball, or no tennis court, from what I heard. I mean, there's no money.
Well, just if I can follow up, I do have, the last email that Bill Fuqua had sent out to myself and Julia Flannery was January 8th of 2016, just saying, at this time, we are working with a consultant to develop plans to replace the tennis court at Jones Point. Right now, we're getting estimates. I started the application for the USTA assistance some months ago, and we're going to get closer to bringing that to process to our grant request. I don't know what that means. So he said this is the last email that I received from him in January saying he started the application process. I'm not sure where that went, if it went obviously it didn't go anywhere. So it just seems like everything's stalled right now. And I think what Todd, or Councilor McGee and I want to know is just like, we had this money, we voted for it, and now it got shifted. I understand the whole, the black, little BBs type of thing going to sand, I get that part. But it just seems like this has been the most untransparent process that I've seen in a very long time. And it's very unfortunate because, I'm just 1 out of 15. I'm losing a lot of faith in the Parks and Rec Department.
Linda?
So, if I might, to the chair. So relative to the vote on the bond and specifically changing the bond for a specific purpose, if the money that was stipulated and added for a certain purpose is shifted, wouldn't bond counsel have to be involved
That's where I'm going, Counselor.
to
I don't know why your lawyer left.
move the money?
Yeah.
That is
one
my
meeting to
whole,
another?
that
Is
is
that
my
legal?
whole, I understand the group project which was Crozier, McKenzie, Roberts. The estimated cost was X amount, of which things come up and you have to reshift within that project. We went outside that scope and redid the bond to add another project for a specific dollar amount. We haven't even touched that, which I have a real problem with bond-wise. So to me, you didn't vote for it. You don't remember it. Did Bill do it on his own? Is my question.
Excuse me, may I? I did mention last time I was here, the Park and Rec Commission did talk about the tennis court, primarily Jones Point and Crozier Field, as a commission, and even in the design committee, we did have to eliminate things to be within budget. So there was a pretty lengthy discussion about the tennis courts, and it was explained about the separate appropriation, and the commission did talk about, well, why would we only do Jones Point and not do the high school courts? And then time went on, and then there was not enough money to do either. So, I don't know. I don't know the bonding issues. I'm not privy to that. We acted as consultants, part of the design committee.
Who set up the design committee? Bill?
Yep.
And in design committees, we don't elect a person to take notes, an admin to take notes of the meetings?
I'm pretty sure they do.
We don't do that anymore?
Usually it's the consultant. It's part of their scope of work.
And did they take notes, do we know?
I don't know. I'll have to check and.
But every time we do a fire station, there's somebody,
Yep.
because I mean, I will be,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Every
this
other
is
big project.
crazy. I mean, you gotta be
50
kidding.
bucks.
No.
I mean, this is a lot of money, and somebody has to have
Within
some
that-
notes. Yeah.
We need those minutes, and if they don't exist, we need to know who made the call to reallocate Jones Point bond money to the other three projects. What's in it might be that I have to request an audit of the whole complex being done. Because, I mean, these numbers, I mean, to do this is the second time we did the bond. That's what's bothering me. Which is, you had one estimate, you came back and you asked for more money, knowing specifically, not only are we putting on another project, but we're starting to get closer to this one, we should know the total amount, which then that number was given. Now we're saying, well, we were off by 1.28. It's kind of a big jump, which then is, why were we way off? Yeah, okay, the field to sand and the time scope caused problems, which is we had to get the time moved up. Which then is, if we knew that, did we discuss it in the meeting going to other locations? We won't have the football game here this year. We'll ask other facilities, AIC or something, to use theirs. Did we discuss that?
We discussed the possibility, like if Roberts wasn't done, for the first 3 weeks, home games were scheduled elsewhere, because we did need the time.
And the cost would be,
The cost for,
if we're gonna reschedule elsewhere, we're gonna rent out from somewhere to redo those home games?
that's a school department.
They're at the meeting.
Yeah. Did we go that far? No.
There's my answer I'm looking for.
I'm sorry, the city was under contract for the contractors to have the job done at a specific
Who
time.
made that call?
That was part of the discussion going on for 4 years. If we ever do it, when can we do it?
Yeah.
And the time frame for that was, as soon as we started to go in where we thought we were gonna have a chance to do it, it was to try to do Roberts during the summer, Mackenzie in the fall, and try to have those set so that the seasons could go on without having to have a disruption of a year.
And when this council specifically asked those questions of Bill, what is the time frame? Everything okay? Come and give us an update. Because there was rumors out in the street that we're dropping the facility, which is the bathroom at Mackenzie, and not putting anything up. No concessions, no nothing. We specifically had Bill come back in, he said, I'm telling you, we're fine. Now, we only have about 300,000 left for a sandy can to go in there after we demolish it. We don't have any tennis courts, we have nothing. We were supposed to have a parking area by Crozier. which was one of the residents' biggest complaints. Give us bond money, we'll pay that extra in bond taxes and everything else because we want to address the parking issue that the facility is causing us. We're not even getting that.
I can offer you what I know the committee talked about, and then they did come up with some parking designs, and every design they came up with, and I think Councilor Bartley, I think,
Councilor
was
Bartley
at
was.
a couple of those meetings, that won't work and that won't work. So I know there were a few parking suggestions that were made to try to take people off of the street while they're attending games. I was one of the first people to talk about parking, not so much for inconvenience for the neighbors as for safety for the kids that are playing on those fields and then running in between cars to get the baseballs or whatever. But to try to actually do it, and we had, I think, 3 different designs. None of them, I think they gave us about 15 or 20 parking spaces, but in order to do that, you were taking away a tennis court, you were taking away part of the softball field, and then, so none of that ended up getting approved by anybody. As far as, we were trying to find a solution, but we couldn't find a solution that would work, not at Crozier Field itself. Now, are there other solutions? I don't know.
Any other questions?
I think my only suggestion for the committee is that anything that we approve, we have to be a little bit more careful and involve the legal department, make sure that any changes that happen after we approve something, that there will be some repercussion. I mean, because, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, that's a lot of money.
We, Giuliano, because you weren't here, we
No, I wasn't here.
specifically asked several times for a layout of the project, even though we understood it had to go out for bid and everything, a detailed analysis to every project. Tennis courts, parking, where is parking going to be? How is it going to be designed? Estimated cost for that. We'll get back to you, No, we want it. Added on Jones' point, for tennis courts and basketball, I'll be adamant about it, we said both. That was part of the cost. No basketball, no tennis, no parking, no tennis, no tennis. We got a field and a baseball field.
Well, the baseball field will be without bathroom, maybe. I don't know. I don't think 300,000 is gonna do it.
And we have to me, I have a problem with the way the bond was reallocated without anyone's approval, but there may or may not be minutes of the meeting to tell us who made that determination, which I'm going to call bond counsel myself, and I might get answers to it, which then is I might have to request an audit of this entire project, because I can honestly tell you, I've never seen, I'm just flabbergasted by this stuff. To have no answers from this group, no vote from that group, no nothing. No one knows anything. So maybe we have to get an audit from an outside independent auditor to see if this thing was actually even done correctly.
We're here to tell you everything that I do know.
No,
and
I
I'm telling
appreciate
you.
what you gave. You actually
So-
gave us the answer we knew was there. You didn't do anything. You didn't vote on it. Someone
were-
else, somewhere, decided on their own that they were going to do it. Then why have a committee? Why have a commission board? Why even have a park and rec? Almost seems as if one person made that determination for a major project.
I was just going to suggest that we keep this tabled and still seek to get whatever information the consultant can bring back to us.
Yep.
And that if the next time we meet, we don't have the information, I'll go along with you to co-sign on an order to have an official look done. Because, I mean, this has been going on for months and months. And it's really not rocket science. Some of it I could see in DPW, transitional information maybe, you know, with the change of the head of the department, but clearly there are people who do have the information. So,
Or should.
well, somebody does. because
Absolutely.
You can't change the use of a bond with nobody knowing it. But if bond counsel is unaware, then that's a significant issue also. Because they would need to be made aware, from what I understand of bonds. Chairman,
Yep,
right?
yep. Sure,
I just think it's
I'm
our
sure that'll
job
change too,
to
but-
be,
In
make
all-
sure the public monies are being properly used. I mean, that's my concern from, the bigger picture.
In all honesty, any reconstruction or any capital improvement project, all the money has flowed through the DPW. And I was saying before, when the merger of the two departments did happen, it was never spelled out who ultimately has the final decision. But since 2001, when the departments merged, financial and capital improvement and maintenance decisions ultimately rested with the Department of Public Works. We did serve as an advisory committee. For any project we do our wish list, and this is what we would like to happen, and estimates were collected.
Right, but I'm talking from a bigger picture point of view. No single department can just go and get a bond.
No,
It's not possible.
Park and Rec has never been involved in any part of the bonding. I didn't even know there was a bonding council, so I don't have those answers. I have no idea about that end of it.
And the committee, from my perception, and I'm not gonna substitute my voice for the makers of the orders, we're looking for the answers to the specific questions that have been asked. Because that's what we need to know, to understand what happened. So now that's one piece of it, so now there's apparently a couple thirds left.
I think it's gonna come down to one. We already know the answer, but we'll get it on the record. So the motion is to request bond counsel give us an opinion as to who requested from bond counsel that the Jones Point money could be reallocated to do just Roberts and McKenzie. I'm sure we'll already know the answer to that. And request the minutes of the meetings from the consultant, their minutes of the meetings. If they have them, we want them. And 2, request who made the final approval of the overall projects. That's what we want, whether it's emails, notes, minutes, want something.
Can we get the minute from the Parks Department?
Yeah, and that's the second request. I'll expect those,
What was the meeting, August 22nd?
yep, I'll expect those.
In quite a while.
Well, you actually get copies of all our minutes. You do have
I
them.
know, but we asked, well, it's funny you're dancing like this. We asked specifically for
I know
these
it.
minutes.
I
and you
apologize.
just-
I don't have them.
Right.
I will get them to you.
This is just my opinion. Maybe take a note. Last time we asked for several things and you have failed to mention any of them.
I apologize.
So, and minutes of the meetings. The motion for all those things is the table.
Should we bring it as a copy of the law department too, so you can think it's legal?
Well, I'll defer to bond counsel first and see what they
Okay,
tell
fair
me.
enough.
So motion is the table with those requests. Anything else to add to it? All right. Seconded, all's in favor? All opposed? Thank
5
you.
and 6.
Yeah, that's 5 and 6. Now we're down to the last one, which is number 7. Order that, we're taking it back up. It was tabled on the 2nd, so we're coming back around to another department for the bond of $21,706,000 for all the capital projects. With that, we'll open it up to the departments that are here to then discuss it. So how about we go to tennis courts? We'll go there first.
Is this the parks and public spaces?
Yep.
So the first item is the new swimming pool. This would be a replacement for Pouliot Pool. Pouliot Pool's currently closed to the public. I think in the last year of service, we had 500 kids a day during the peak.
Yep, during the month of July, we service up to 500 kids a day, but normally it's about between 200 and 400 kids daily,
Plus seniors.
plus the senior swim in the morning.
So in February of this year, BSC did an evaluation of the pool to come up with recommendations on, should it be rehabilitated, the existing structure rehabilitated, or completely replaced, or there was a third option. I forget what the third option was. But the ultimate recommendation was to completely replace the pool. So it would be a demolition of the existing pool structure and construction of a new pool in its footprint. and their estimate was $1.5 million. I believe it is just the pool structure, so all of the ancillary buildings associated with the pool would stay as is.
The pumps and all that, they're fine?
I'm not sure about that.
What about the fencing around the pool?
No,
I mean, the fencing is in rough condition.
awful.
Yeah, I'm the one that called the police when I saw the kids cutting through the fence and jumping in around midnight, which is a serious liability.
Right.
So 1.5 just gets to the pool, but we haven't addressed the fencing or anything around it for safety purposes.
And we were just talking before we came, if 1.5 would even truly cover the pool.
I know.
Yeah, seeing how our estimates are a little off. What was it to not replace it, but what was the other option? Rehab it, what have you?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
a lap
I
pool or
know it's in the report.
Yeah, the lap pool was one of the recommendations. A lap pool was one of the recommendations, and it just wouldn't serve us very well. There would be no deep end. You would just have a shallow end for the length of the pool, and I think the deep end would have just been filled in.
It would probably be fine for the seniors, but it wouldn't serve the most of the young
Yeah.
people that show up aren't looking to have a lap pool.
One of the issues with rehabilitation of the existing structures, you can see where there's spalled concrete on the outside, but without really getting into it, you don't know how far you have to chase the bad concrete in order to do a sound repair.
I mean, if we're gonna spend all that money, we have to come back with some type of security measure. Even if you have camera, I don't care what you can do. I mean, even if you can get a grant or something, but that's a lot of money just to put that money there and not have any plan for security. And depending on the police, I mean, we have a big city and a lot of issues just to depend on the police to secure that area. I mean, if you're able and go back and even get a grant or whatever just to put some security in that area, that would be ideal. I mean, right now with the technology, you can probably get something. I don't know. But that's asking for trouble, in my opinion, without security.
It is. There's lights. Lights were installed quite a few years ago. We could put a camera up. It's been talked about forever. Should we have fencing where you can't see through it? Well, no, because if somebody is in there in distress or drowning, then nobody could see for a rescue. So, there used to be barbed wire on top, but that was illegal, so we had to take that down. So the fence gets repaired daily, but somebody just comes along and rips it again, they crawl under. And the police do patrol it, but it's so easy because they pull up, they see the lights, and kids just dash right back under the fence into the wooded area. So, but it's a hazard.
Question is, was it discussed a different location for the pool? Which would make it easier to secure.
The only thing that I heard as an option was that Scott's Tower. And I think pretty much security was also an issue there.
And access.
Well, we used to have a pool up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We
some
sold
more.
it. Was it?
It wasn't discussed at any great length, mostly because of finances. And immediacy. We were hoping that it could open again within a year or two.
Right now, you're using the high school though, right?
In the summer, yep, we use the high school Monday through Friday from 3 to 6.
Okay.
It actually was very, very, much more popular than I had ever imagined. We used the pool in the gym.
All right, moving on from the pool?
There are the 3 tennis courts, Jones Point, Crozier, and Holyoke High. The estimate included in the bond was the original BSC estimate for each one of those fields, those tennis courts.
Which ends up being less than the 1.2 million that we were then told if we were to do them all, this is what it's going to cost us. So all of those numbers are less, then they're more than likely are going to end up being.
I was just going
I was just going to ask that, but go ahead.
money we put in the other bond?
But the hope is that with a longer construction time, that the construction cost would come down.
and I'm not, you know this much more than I do, but we did not have, even when we started doing this, I mean, it wasn't like this had to be done at this particular time. We were much more flexible in terms of when these could get done than we were with the two fields, because the two fields have specific teams playing in specific seasons. So those were pressed in terms of time. But the tennis courts, we were just trying to figure out what could work and have the least negative impact on people using those courts and get those courts up and running as quickly as possible. So I don't think time was as much an issue there as it was on the other two.
And I'm not sure what the driver was for having a short construction period to have everything completed in one season, but I can find out.
Yeah, Mike, all our questions towards you, please don't take it. It's not you. You just stepped in. We know you weren't here, trust me.
Yeah.
This is just us venting about something that we knew was going to be a problem and was never addressed properly. You're just sitting in the wrong chair right now. So obviously the bids are well under what we were just told for the tennis courts. Which, in here though, I don't see anything with regards to the parking. Am I missing that over by Crozier? Or does that encompass the 475 for Crozier tennis courts?
I don't believe the 475 includes any parking improvements. My understanding was
that was the initial, just let you know, the initial push for the first bond that we just talked about was doing Crozier's tennis courts over, as well as dealing with the issue of parking over there, not only for residents, but for safety, for the kids running off the field. Now it's missing?
My understanding was that there were several options for parking improvements, and the only viable option would be to increase the road width for a certain portion of McIntosh Terrace. And that would be from approximately the end of the tennis courts. I believe I think there's an electrical transformer in that area, back towards Peck. There's some trees that we would have to watch out for, but it would be to widen the road. And by widening the road, you don't necessarily increase the amount of parking, but what you do is you help facilitate traffic flow through that area. If you were to put parking up by the tennis courts, there's the slope that comes down, and there would be a lot of cost associated with, building a retaining wall and the fill that goes into that area. And then if you were to try to get perpendicular or angled parking, I believe you would start to lose ball fields and playing areas, whether it's the baseball field or there's another, it's not really a appropriately sized soccer field, but it's used for recreational soccer. We would have to encroach on those areas.
So all these were brought up in your design meeting, and none went forward because of what reason? Some people didn't like it, some people cost, or?
Basically, the general argument was that we're not solving the problem, we're spending a lot of money, that it's really going to just create other problems because it's going to make us do other things, or we're going to have negative impacts on the fields that we currently have and or the tennis courts. And there was one parking thing that I think started to encroach on the tennis courts, and here we're trying to make those tennis courts better. And I think that was only 15 or 20 spots, and it was just 15 or 20 spots wasn't going to make a difference. Plus, those people would be parking where their cars now get hit by foul balls, and so that wasn't considered. And and then, I mean, the first time we looked at it, we were down right by Peck, and we tried to see if we could do it where the softball field is. We thought we might be able to get enough parking in there, maybe 25 to 40 spaces, without impacting that field, but when they did the engineering survey, they said you're really going to have to eliminate that field if you're going to do that, so. I mean.
But do you see our problem, or at least mine, I mean, I'll be vocal about it. You came in on a bond and said, we're going to do the field, to help the residents and make it safe for kids. That was part of the pitch. So I'm doing tennis and safety for parking. One, we got neither, but now it's, okay, we're gonna go back to doing the tennis courts. We still have the parking issue and the safety issue. So you sold it to us here, now it's like you just don't care anymore, just do the tennis courts. I'm not saying you don't care, but see it from our view. In order to get the first bond, these were all the things that we're gonna do, and that's why it was important to do the bond. So you just told me when we did the first bond, really wasn't that important. Because now we're coming back and just doing the field.
No, I'm not telling you that.
I'm not saying no, I'm just saying, see it from our view.
Yeah, but, I mean, I have always thought the parking or the safety in the parking was an important part of that. I'm the one that brought it up as far as on the commission or in terms of that advisory thing. But, you know, we only have input in terms of, this is what we'd like to see done, this is, you know, someone else got to show us how it can be done, and then they got to say it can work. And we're at that advisory meeting, and they're basically saying, this can't work, that can't work, this is why it can't work. They're all valid,
You've
they're all,
already addressed this now. Okay, go ahead, Linda.
You know what this is making me think, is that we shouldn't be voting on bond packages until we have a lot more information.
And that's my whole point.
And we have an engineering report,
Here's my
so
whole
that we
point.
know if it can even happen.
Well-
Because it seems like the ideas were real. We passed a bond package based on that. Then when the engineers got done, the concept had to change, perhaps due to those reasons. But if we had known that information before we passed the bond, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And just to add to your point of, we allocated the money and everybody thought we were getting this, that's not the only problem we have. The other problem we have is that, to the public's eye, we already spent the money. Now they see another list coming out, and they're like, they already got the money for this last year. What are those politicians doing? I know I read this in the paper last year they did the bond, and now it's the same fields again. And I mean, this is the kind of credibility problems that I know people on this committee try to avoid, but maybe we have to go later in the game for the bonding, I don't know. It's
To
just a
me-
thought.
Well, to me is, we're asking for 1.5 for a pool. We just confirmed there's no security measures at all. It's just you're putting in another box. And it's gonna cost 1.5. So all the issues that are outstanding are still there. And those prices aren't given to us. I don't even know if that building where you go to change is doing well. Is that gonna have to be rehabbed at some point? I mean, how old is that building?
It was built in the 80s. Todd and councilors, I agree with you. I mean,
Do we need a new roof there? Do we need to?
at this moment, no, but eventually we will. But please, let me just, I feel like we're batting, heads here, not going anywhere. We certainly didn't work in secrecy or try to make the council look bad, we were doing our jobs, and I'm sorry I don't have all these answers for you. The pool and a lot of these lists, a lot of the items on the bonding list didn't really come from Park and Rec, even though some of them are park property.
Who gave the list then, it says Park and Rec spaces, who gave this list with the numbers? You didn't have any put on these numbers.
Very little, very little. There's some projects that we didn't even know about till I read them in the paper. The 1.5 is based on a study that Mr. Fuqua had done. And that was not done with the Park Commission or me, it was done with the mayor and Mr. Fuqua.
So you had very little input on this list that we're talking about right now.
Yes, some of them.
So, new pool, Jones
Yep.
Point, Crozier Tennis Court, Hoyle Kai Tennis Court, Mare Field, 75,000. What's that for?
That was,
Just the redo, rehab?
No.
no, Counselor Bartley actually submitted an order to get an estimate on what it would cost to have a playground and a water spray installed.
At Mare Field.
Yep,
So 75,000 is for a spray park.
I think it's 175.
It says
75?
75,000.
Yeah, a small spray park, spray park.
Kennedy Field. Kenny, I'm sorry, I need my glasses.
I don't know
Is
what
that a
that's
spray
for.
park?
I don't know what that's for.
I'm not sure what that's
Yeah.
for. That's off of Bemis.
I don't know. Yeah, I know it's Kenny Field.
Valley Area Park, 100,000.
Valley
Arena.
Arena. Valley
sorry.
Arena, I don't really know what that's for either. I'm assuming it was to help with the cleanup because the ground is contaminated. But again, that was not run through Park and Rec at all. Neither was lighting for Springdale.
Springdale Park, lighting, so the ones I just mentioned, Kenny, Rowan Park, they want a spray pad too.
Yes. That again was an order filed by the counselor.
And it's only gonna cost 75,000 to do all the piping and put in a spray park?
That's the estimate that was received.
It's a small
Yeah.
spray park.
Yeah, that one probably is
Cost us
pretty
a
close
bigger.
to accurate.
What did it cost at Vega?
What did it, what?
What did it cost when we did the spray at Vega?
One park?
I'm not sure.
Vega was redone.
But I'm thinking it was up there.
391 Park, what are they doing there for 150?
I don't know, that's not even park property. I read that in the paper. It's not park property. It's, I think, to beautify the area. Yeah, it's under the underpass.
Where you get on 391.
Yeah, so
No, no, no.
that's certainly what, it's not even park property, so
That's the one,
it's on the bond. 391.
You know what,
that's the one that goes off and is right there.
All right, so citywide
Main
benches, 50,000.
391. Oh, not Sheard Park. No, no, no.
Sheard Park is
Yeah.
391.
how much is it for?
That's why I understood it when they talked to me.
No, in the bond, it's 391 City Park. It was in the paper, an area to beautify under the underpass with city art
So-
and artists.
Gateway signs, 50,000.
Yep.
What
The-
signs are you requesting?
Mayor Morris started a campaign for new city benches and city parks. He allocated money through community development a few years ago for Pulaski Park. There's a few new signs around town for city parks. Mayor Morris initiated that. So that's to continue the universal signage.
So signs in all the parks, just tell what park you're in. Like the one on Crozier, I saw the new sign.
Correct.
So we're doing those. That's 50,000 is going to cover every park.
I'm sorry. I wasn't involved in that
We
one.
never- Yeah, we were
I
never
worked
asked.
with
Those are
Bill on the
wayfinding
design.
Signs.
Wayfinding.
Wayfinding
Okay, that's
gateway
great. That's
signs.
where I wanted to go with this.
So it's not a
We
park
accepted
name.
a grant
Correct.
to do 5 wayfinding signs. The example one is down by the Boys and Girls Club. You're coming down the hill, Boys and Girls, not Boys and Girls, the Hoyoke YMCA. It's right in front of you. There's the sign. Tells you where to go. We're supposed to get 5 more of those. There's a grant. We accepted it. Where are my 5 signs?
I don't know. I can find out for you.
Yeah.
I requested this, I know, it's not you. I requested this about, last year I filed the order. And I got screamed at by a certain not screamed at, point out it wasn't them. Therefore, where are those signs? Your example is right by the YMCA.
Yeah.
It's that big sign, right, so you come down the hill, it's right there on the right-hand side by the lights. Yeah, Beach and Appleton? Appleton. We're supposed to get 5 more based on that grant.
Okay.
5 went astray. Now we're going to do wayfinding signs for 50,000. This isn't even the park.
Right, this isn't,
So this would be something
Park.
similar to that Appleton and Beach.
right.
How to find
Children's
yourself around the
Museum
city.
This way, but those types of signs.
So why is
throughout
it
the
in with
city.
park and rec space?
It's in the parks, public spaces
Yeah, I thought it was,
category.
I thought that the signs that are in place now were covered through a community development block grant. So I thought, I could be wrong, that the other money was to have signage at parks that didn't qualify for
No,
those funds.
So the category that we're in right now is parks, public spaces.
Okay, so solar trash compactors?
Those would be throughout the city. I don't know if you've ever seen the big belly solar trash compactors. It's just, there's a problem with litter and trash in the city. And these compactors do a good job of taking the trash and compacting it.
And how many are we getting?
I don't know the quantity.
25,000 gets us,
25,000. I'll find out the quantity on those.
all right, so from what I just learned, is that for a lot of the stuff listed, you guys had no input. That's awesome. Not being facetious. You're asking for bond money.
We here didn't have input, but Mr. Fuquay certainly did. He worked hand in hand with the mayor.
But you
And he
just
does
said
maintain city
Park and
parks.
Rec, you guys are still unsure as to who's making the calls. I'm starting to see where we're going with that.
Well, it is pretty clear. The superintendent makes calls when it comes to maintenance. It's all within his budget, his purview, his staff.
It's your fields.
Correct. My part, usually in any grant, and the commission's part, for smaller grants, we say, this is what we would like, this is a particular playground design we would like, I've got a cost estimate, and then it literally gets turned over to the DPW. They become the project manager. There's no money coming through our department. Our decisions are pretty much done unless it comes to cost cutting, which typically happens.
Well, you need to know kind of the breakdown of each field, what you're trying to do in each field. Pretty much the whole list here, other than the pool and the tennis courts, the rest of it, what's really being paid for. Spray pad, what type of spray pad? Is it kind of like community field where one little thing shoots up in the air? Now, that's been my favorite, because I was told I was having all these different apparatus and kids are going to run out. I got to spray. So what type of spray park are we getting at Mare and Rowan? Because in the other one, Kenny, we don't even know what they're doing there.
No.
So these, I mean, once again, we're asking for money, no answers to what we're asking for. Not your, once again, not you, but that's what we're looking for.
Actually, I can tell you, the designs were submitted, they were proposals from one playground, one of the playground specialists I work with. They're both very small water sprays.
So sprinkler?
Do we have pictures of them?
Is it kind of like community field that just spits
No,
up?
I hope not. No, they're basically, we get more money out of more spigots than apparatus. Apparatus can be vandalized and they break down. There was a spray park was installed at Springdale Park a few years ago, a newer one, that had a lot of timed water, and they're basically that on a much smaller scale.
How much was that down there? That whole
Springdale?
redo, yeah.
Springdale, I don't remember. I know 2 or 3 years ago, we did get a grant from the state to redo the spray park at Carlos Vega Park.
And how much was that?
That totaled, I think, about $120,000.
And it has a spray park?
But it's a much larger park.
Bigger one.
And some amenities were included, and yeah. Yeah,
Well, we have to go on, you know?
Could I just make, if I might make a comment, just, I mean, I think Councilor Bacon's suggestion, and after going through all the other things that happened, I mean, I think she's right on target, that, you know, when we first came to you, this is what we were told things were gonna cost, and we were gonna be able to do all those things. So I don't, you know, I think we were upfront. I was very confident that, hey, I'm told by people that I trust that this is what it's gonna cost. I think, you know, I'm already, before I came here, I said there's $2.4 million just to do the swimming pool and the tennis courts, if those bids are accurate. And I pretty much came to the conclusion that they probably weren't gonna be accurate. And so I was saying, okay, of those, the next part is $625,000. You know, I mean, to me, it'd be, if we were gonna get $3 million, which of those are the priority? And let's get an actual factual amount so we know beforehand. All right, $3 million is gonna get us a swimming pool with security and a new fencing, and if we need to repair something, it's gonna get the tennis courts, it's gonna get parking if we can do it. It's gonna do those things, and this is what it's gonna cost. And now we have $50,000 left over. Which of those is your priority? I mean, I think I would love to have been able to do that in the past, because we wouldn't be here tonight, or at least as far as the previous one. But, you know, I mean, right now, we saw these things, I saw these things for the first time when I saw what the bond was. I mean, I obviously had some concept on the pool, because I knew we were talking about replacing that, but a lot of these other things were like, Where'd that come from? Who's recommending that? So, but I think if you could get a true cost factor before you approve the bond, then the chances on having to have major changes on it, on what gets done with that bond, would be far less.
All right, so any other questions with regards to park and public spaces?
Not that anybody can answer.
Okay.
We'll have to get to the.
Are there anything other on here that regards to you guys, or? If not, I don't want to keep you, so
Oh, on the bond?
that's all. Yeah.
I mean, you can't help it if you don't know.
Can you find out exactly what's gonna happen at Valley Arena with the $100,000? Because, I mean, that park's contaminated unless.
It is
Yep.
contaminated, and I believe that cost would be for the cleanup of the park so that it could be used.
And you think that that will be enough money to clean up that whole mess? Because it's underground.
It's not,
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going underground, right? They're
Well,
just-
can you find out, can you get back to
Yeah.
us?
Yeah, actually,
I just wanna find out exactly what's gonna happen with.
I do know that Tessa from planning, she actually just left her job too, but she was working on that. I don't know with who, the EPA, but I don't have a person's name, but there is an existing file. And a recommendation should be forthcoming where the park could be usable again, but I don't know dollar amount or even, she was thinking that, like, if the city laid a foot or two of topsoil, it might be okay, but again, I don't have a final report, but there was something in the works.
Councilor Roman did talk to me about it, and his suggestion and his view was that the goal was to be able to put something, cover the pollution, and be able to have picnics and grill space for families to come down there and associate, but you know how bad it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot, way
Okay.
back since they demolished that whole building.
So with that, we'll change gears and go to the top of the list, which is DPW priorities,
Okay.
and then roof projects. And then after that, well, then you have sidewalks.
And traffic signals.
Well, we discussed the traffic signals with fire department. You were here for that meeting.
Correct.
And you did give us that list of,
The
thank
top
you,
10.
by the way, thank you very much. So that one we'll say is complied with in the sense of,
Okay.
my favorite part was the ones that we have to wait till 2020.
Wow, that wasn't, I understand, yeah.
That's not your fault. So we'll start from the top and go down.
The first item, the litter vacuum. This is a four-wheeled vehicle that's used every day, Saturdays and Sundays included, to go around and suck up litter.
Why is there, I mean, it's not your, what's your editorial on why there's so much litter that's every day downtown? You drive through it, every day there's McDonald's bags, there's trash everywhere.
I don't understand. And
There not enough refuse, containers, or, I don't understand that.
it's just,
Windy, and it comes out of the trash, and it's just like a funnel right down High Street. It is.
there's some of that. But there are, the gentleman who runs the litter vac says he'll go down Canal, right? And 2 hours later, he'll see, a dirty diaper on the road. I don't understand why, but it happens.
So 38 or 36,000
36,000
for just one?
would buy a new litter vac, and then the one that we have now would become the backup.
So do we have two now or one in use now?
We have one in use. We have one that is a three-wheeled litter vac, and that is a backup. But the three-wheeled litter vac isn't as stable as the four-wheeled litter vac.
Okay. Then the next one, so I mean, you have two currently, you would like a newer one to then reshuffle, I get that, but
Correct.
do you need it, I guess my question is, do you need it this year or next year, or? Because, with the budget, new budget coming up, could we put in a capital project 36,000 or whatever that number is, because I can't have my glasses, and put it instead of doing a bond for a vehicle that lasts on average
10 years?
10 years?
15 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to
yeah,
get to on these things. Yeah, just one. Well, he has one four-wheeler and one three-wheeler,
Right.
but it's not as safe.
Right.
But the other two are working currently.
They do work.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's not an immediate need, but
Okay.
it's something that would be nice.
Okay. Refuge truck 2, 410.
Yeah, our refuse trucks, these two new ones would replace trucks that were purchased back in '95. So there's two trucks that were from 1995. They've
Yeah.
we have 5 trucks in the fleet, and they do break down occasionally. The mechanics do a great job of keeping them on the road, but there's frequent times where there's a truck out of service.
Recycling truck 2.
And this is the same thing. The recycling trucks are 2004 vintage, but they're needing more and more repairs more frequently. It's harder to get parts, and some of the components aren't even serviced anymore. So this would replace 2 of our recycle trucks.
You have 5 of those, or
We have 3.
3 of those?
And when those go down, the refuge trucks are reallocated to be recycled trucks.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Mike. And I see that as, and I think that's very important, the recycling trucks, because I do see that out there, and people that every 2 weeks put out the recycling, then they see a trash truck come up, refuse. I mean, in their mind thinking, wait a second, I took all the time, that, in their mind, their perception, I know it's recycled,
Right.
but they come by and they put one papers in there, and I'm saying, I put this aside, so I think it's important. That's a key thing is, and I know they break down,
Right.
those recycling trucks.
And because we don't commingle recyclables, where we have to keep plastic and paper separate, when one recycling truck goes down, we have to replace it with 2
Two refuse
trash
trucks, yeah.
Or the refuse truck would go down the street and pick up paper, and then they'd have to dump.
And then
when
come
they're
back
full.
and get the plastic and the
Come back
glass,
and get the plastic
whatever, yeah.
afterwards.
So, but I'm just saying with the public and their perception saying, well, I put this out and where's it going?
Right.
Even though I know it's recycled, but I think it's a very important, those recycling trucks that's a key item, especially with the ones, that are wearing down, and when they break down, people want to make sure that their stuff is recycled properly,
Linda, did you have a question? Or?
I just wanted to make a comment that I do think it's great, though, that you do repurpose the trucks and get it caught up as quickly as you do, because even though there may be, and we could help straighten out the perception with a couple public service announcements on the website, that the trucks are repurposed when there's a breakdown, so people understand that it's happening. I think they get more frustrated if the recycling's sitting out there blowing on the street. So I think the fact that you get out there and pick it up is commendable. So I think that's good cross-use, or whatever you want to call it. So, thank you for that.
This is only an idea that I know that every week you have to go down to Springfield. I just want to see how, you don't need to answer, but if you can look into people dropping their recyclable at your place or on a location, and then maybe you will be able to save on gas by going every week down to Springfield. If you're able to haul it every once a month, maybe that will be, I don't know, I just thinking aloud here.
For the recyclables?
Yes.
To the facility in Springfield, the MRF?
Yes.
They go daily.
Yeah, they go daily, that's
Yeah.
what I mean. If there's any way that if it's possible for the city to do it every 2 weeks instead of going every day, or you don't have the facility to hold that stuff.
Right.
You don't have it.
We would be talking about another transfer station, and I don't think we want to go there.
Okay, thank you. I don't want anything to do with transfer station.
Use it here. Transfer it to Holyoke, right?
Next is the loader, 130.
The front end loader, we have one loader, and it's used constantly. I'm not sure of the age, but it's one of those pieces of equipment that we rely on a lot for work in the DPW.
And so the other one, is it breaking down a lot, or is it just getting towards the end of time, or?
Getting towards the end
Okay.
of its time.
But right now, it's not a super priority.
Correct.
One plow, 35,000?
Yeah, so it's the pickup truck with the plow, and this is to replace a vehicle that came along with the Parks Department, and that's a 1988 vintage vehicle that would get replaced. And there's the same with the next one, the small four-wheel drive dump truck with a plow. That's also a 1988 vintage vehicle.
Are both broken down currently, or?
No,
But,
no, everything.
but they're just the whole time.
Yeah, and they're prone to breaking down.
And what do we use them, I know we're plowing, but do they just plow City Hall, or what do they use for mainly?
Well, I believe the Parks one would be plowing parking lots and Parks Department fields, but the the four-wheel drive dump truck, that would be doing the roads that DPW normally plows, the main roads in town. We do have vendors who come in to supplement plowing, hired contractors, and I think they mostly do side streets and routes. So this would be for main roads in the city.
Okay. Next is traffic controllers. Am I reading that right?
You're reading that right. I
5?
mean, that should probably go down with traffic signals and intersections. 5 traffic controllers. These are the boxes that control the traffic light signals and the timing.
So the, the estimate that you gave on all, I think there were, what, 10 areas of,
Yeah.
is this in there, or was this forgotten, or?
Well, so that estimate included controllers, but I believe it also included new lights, new poles. and
Yeah, so
everything.
the estimate that you gave that night included controllers.
For the top 10.
So this 5 covers,
This 5 could be used in other places, such as, Pleasant and Lincoln Street.
So
A couple weeks ago,
is this a duplicate cost, I guess,
No.
is better way?
no, I would say these would be 5 additional controllers that
the whole light, he just replaced.
the box, the computer that runs the
Right,
signals.
I'll ask it a little differently.
But I don't think
The-
that $100,000 is also included in the traffic signals and intersections.
Well,
or-
I already had an issue with this bond request with regards to the way it's set up. It's only taking care of certain areas, not the full 10. That's what we addressed in the meeting already.
Right.
Your list gives a list of all 10 areas and the total cost, including the 5 controllers. Your list. Forget this one. Forget
This one from our last
when you
meeting.
dropped it off that meeting.
Yeah,
Your, was it 3 million?
3 million
Covered all 10
covered these 10
with controllers.
with controllers.
All right, so my issue is, can I take these controllers off of here? Because my whole issue is, we're not addressing the full 10 lights to begin with.
Right.
And this really,
But I think those 10 controllers could be used, there's 66 traffic lights
Yep.
in the city.
Yep.
We've got 10, the top 10, those priority.
right,
So you'd
Of
still need
those-
5 more.
you'd
Well,
still
of
need
those-
5 more?
Of those 10, 5 are in the bond and the traffic signals and intersection. I'm sure we could use
5 more.
25 more.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at, okay.
So
Yep.
if I may, I think this list was largely compiled by counselors giving feedback to the mayor about what they wanted in their wards. Because they put in the one for 202 in Apremont, you know, and they put in some other ones, and I have a feeling it's because maybe they were specifically requested off the list of 10 instead of working from the list of 10. So that, then it could be, well, this is in response to that. I think it's a better way of doing business to take the top 10 and put them in the bond request, but
I'll be clear, I never sent a single email to the mayor with a wish list, because that's not how it should have been done.
the only thing I sent in, and the only reason I'm saying that, is I sent in the thing because there'd never been a light at the top of
Right.
202, and we've had all kinds of accidents. And I didn't want it sitting there if we were gonna be cherry picking off the list of 10. I didn't want to be sitting there quiet at the only terrible intersection in the city that doesn't have a light.
Right, and that's my
So,
point. We
But I'm
sh-
just saying.
We shouldn't be cherry picking safety.
Right, I think
It's the whole
all
thing should be
10
done.
should be in here
Yeah.
if we're doing it in a business-like fashion, but I'm just
I agree with you.
putting forth a theory.
Yeah, no, so, all right, so that answers that. Stained glass windows, 350.
So previously, I guess there's 10 large stained glass windows. A few years ago, 2 of them were redone. There's another 3 that have been removed and are in storage, waiting to be redone. This 350, when combined with other funds that are being donated, would get us the rest of, it would get the 8 that haven't been redone
Okay.
fixed, and fixed well.
City Hall parking deck, 200. Demolition of City Hall police deck, install new paved parking lot.
In the old station, huh?
So you'd be dropping the back of here down to have a space.
Right.
Okay, so that's gonna lead me, we're gonna jump ahead to the annex building, roof project, 300,000. Let's redo the whole roof on top?
Right.
All right. Are you familiar with the annex building?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I've-
My understanding is the annex building has a significant amount of trouble to it. And some of the estimates that were thrown around, I'm bringing it up from the school committee meetings. I was assigned to look at relocating the school department to another set of buildings, of which one of the questions was the annex building. In our meetings, they said the annex building is so bad, it would cost X number of millions to rehab the whole thing. Which then the discussion led to, well, if the annex is so bad, why don't we just get rid of it? And they said, well, we would like to get rid of the annex building and the parking deck, which is what we're talking about. So we have a parking deck demo and repave for 200 and 300,000 for a roof on a building that they're in discussions in another meeting on demoing. Or at least one of the discussion was $50,000 to mothball it, board it all up, which we know how that went with the Essex building. Okay, so with that, 200, 300 is $500,000 in an area where they're talking about really they should do a whole tear down of both areas. Can you get me an updated cost on the annex building, what has to be done, and why would we put a roof on it if the intent is to get rid of it or mothball it?
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah,
When were your conversations with the school department?
it was last month. So you can call Anthony Soto and Marcus Marrero.
Yep.
They're gonna have the same numbers I've already seen, but these guys should have it.
That's in the City Hall Annex offices?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even see that one. Good catch on that. So another 750.
Well, but they're gonna redo this room too.
Yeah, but if you see, when he gets you the numbers, I'd like to see if they change. I know they won't, but it's several $1 million to deal with the annex problem.
I'm
all we keep doing is throwing money after it, patch it's throwing good money after bad, so it makes no sense to do that. If we're gonna spend over $1 million, then the question would be is, if it's gonna cost X number of million to rehab it to be used, how much would it be to demo it and the back total, which one estimate was 1.2, to tear everything down?
Okay.
Now, those numbers could change, so just let you know. But I'd call Anthony Soto, Marcos Marrero, and I'm trying to think who else had numbers. I think they actually hired outside, trying to remember who the gentleman was, but he was doing all the estimate work. I asked Marcos, he'll know.
See the abatement guy?
I can't remember him. He was an outside consultant, kind of like a tie and bond, but it wasn't tie and bond.
Okay.
But they were doing
Forbes and
estimates.
Wheeler? Forbes and Wheeler?
It might have been.
I know this is a little off
Yeah.
topic, but in that course of that conversation, did they talk about the condition of the building that the administrative offices for the schools are in now?
They had an old report as to, need an elevator, a roof.
Elevators aren't cheap and
No,
neither are
yeah,
roofs.
once
Are
again,
you
we'll
kidding?
have everyone in on that meeting.
Oh,
But yeah,
wow.
we'll show the cost to
wow.
everything. But that's, my whole point is, we're dealing with one project of trying to move the school department, which is gonna require bonding, whatever we do. And we're dealing with a bond that addresses some of the, or at least one of the buildings, and trying to fix it up when ultimately one of the recommendations it might be to tear it down. So we gotta bring it all together.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So good catch, Linda, on the City Hall Annex Office, 750,000. Although it encompasses, how much would it be to do the city council chambers would be my question. What are they looking to do?
I don't know the breakdown
We
of,
could rip out this nasty carpet.
So actually, well, it says
I
City
sleep
Hall
nuts in here every
and
time.
Annex Offices, 750.
yeah, I think,
City Hall reorganization and upgrades. Do we have a plan as to reorgs?
I think it is renovations to the first floor and something
Here.
with the clerk's office, relocating the clerk's office.
So we are gonna relocate the clerk's office. Didn't you file an order on that?
How come I wasn't notified about this?
What committee? In the ordinance, we need to move that order out.
So they are
I don't know if they
Relocate.
are. I think that was,
Well, you've been told something. 'cause
I
you
think
just
we
said
need
it.
so I had a conversation with Jim Crass in anticipation of this meeting. And I asked him, what does the City Hall/Annex Office
Said the city
include?
clerk's office?
He said he's not exactly sure, but what he thinks it is renovations to the first floor and relocation of the city clerk, and
Where?
I don't know. He didn't know.
It's basically the whole plan. The whole plan is to move the city clerks over to the tax collector. That's the bottom line.
And then make that, what,
Make that part of the mayor's office. It's like a
Suite?
conference.
Penthouse.
is it gonna live there?
It's a penthouse, whatever you want to call it, but that's the plan.
Are there plans for this that we can see?
I can look and see if there are plans.
All right, so plans, we would like a copy of plans. Also, what the total scope of 750 is getting us. I mean, what are they gonna do in here as part of the renovation? Just new carpeting? Are they getting a new desk? Are they getting a new speaker system?
No, a breakdown.
Breakdown would be nice.
good.
Also, I'm not sure if you know this, but we had a study done. I think the state did it for mold and everything else. Does the 750
As a
address that?
Oh, my eyes sometimes are burning.
Or is this just, we're doing rugs, moving stuff, and not addressing the true health problems?
I'll get the answer.
Recycling containers?
There's, right above the City Hall Annex, there's a fuel depot concrete repairs for 50,000.
Oh, okay.
And that's the fuel depot down by the water department, the fire department. There's some grading issues where there's puddling, ponding over the fuel storage tanks. So this would be to kind of regrade that area so that there's no, everything sheds off.
Recycling containers?
I believe these are the larger size,
Yeah, the big blue bins.
the big blue bins. There is a very long list of people who have requested those.
How many total would we get for 50,000?
I think we would get somewhere between 700 to 1,000.
And how many on the list? Guesstimate.
There's probably 3,000 or 4,000.
4,000 people?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who've requested it, and
Okay, so 50,000 gets us about 1,000 bins. We have a need for 3,000 bins.
but not everybody who requests a bin
Would
should
qualify,
legitimately
yeah.
get a bin.
I guess my question would be is, each year we get a reimbursement for the recycling that we do. How much is that on average again?
I think it was like $9,000, $9,000 to $11,000.
I remember Bill saying that basically we broke even with the cost of doing it and what we got back for
That
it.
was a moneymaker, no?
Not at
Makes
this
more money than
time,
trash.
Yeah.
but there, because of the costs associated with it too.
Right.
I mean, that was the feedback. I mean, it may
That-
change year to
that-
year.
That money goes towards the trucks again, or where does it go towards?
I think it goes back into the general fund.
Yeah,
There's no
We were trying to set
revolving
up that
fund.
revolving
Right,
account,
but
they
I-
said no.
Perfect if we
yeah,
did
they
that.
don't have a revolving account for that, I don't think.
No, we were never able to do it. So I guess the question becomes if we're getting back that money, it's still a small amount compared to what we need.
But over time,
Yeah.
over 20 years,
Right. So
if we could set up a revolving fund,
could
For the
you look
recycling.
at that? I know we brought up a few years ago, or 2 years ago, 3 years maybe?
I'm blanking on that one a little, but Brian never liked revolving funds. So he would always
We
push
just found
back.
out, Wisteria has a revolving fund that pays salaries.
I know, but
salaries.
But,
crazy.
yeah, could you look at and see what the numbers are just on that and kind of give
They should
an
pay the
estimate,
benefits with it,
over
too.
20 years, we could buy 300 bins a year based on the, whatever you think is best. Which then would be is, instead of bonding for blue bins, we could do a program, some type of program to get them out there.
They're great, though.
Okay, so then we go to DPW office, needs a roof.
There are-
Exhibit hall needs a roof, fire station 3 needs a roof, correct?
Correct.
So fire station 3, $70,000. I know we brought it up earlier at the first meeting with the fire department. It's $70,000 to do the roof over there, but the windows are bad, the doors coming down are bad on both sides.
Electric heat.
Electric heat. So I guess my question is, what's the overall cost for Station 3 as to rehabbing it, or just throwing a roof on doesn't address all their problems?
Right.
So would it be better to do a full analysis of Station 3 as to what to do with it?
I thought we did that years ago, especially with the heat. I thought they were gonna switch to, I thought I filed an order to switch to oil.
Yeah, you did.
What about gas? Then we
I'm sorry,
do gas.
I'm sorry.
Gas.
To gas from oil.
To gas,
We were
yeah.
paying like a insane amount of money.
Can we? So can we switch to gas over there would be another question. And does the HG&E help us out with that?
No interest loan.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it.
I used it, I thought my house was great.
The DPW office, you guys actually need a roof?
There are leaks in the roof.
How old is that roof?
What's the old trolley building?
100 years?
yeah.
100 years? It's the old bus
Right.
building, yeah.
Yeah.
That building.
So that's a,
building is cost
yeah,
by
that's a priority. What else is on here for you?
Sidewalks and roads.
Yeah, yeah, everyone wants them, and
Yeah.
we understand that one.
Okay.
We're always trying to get you that money.
So, and for sidewalks, CDBG, I think in the past we've gotten around $100,000 per year for sidewalks, but it can only be in certain areas.
Correct.
Right. But the $750,000, that would get us 9,000 to 10,000 feet as opposed to the 1,000 feet that we can do every year through CDBG. And then the road paving, every year we get $1 million from the state in Chapter 90. We don't spend all of that money on paving. We use some of that for design of transportation improvement projects. So I think that if we were to be able to plunk down $1 million, we would be able to get about 3 miles of road paved.
One issue that came up, Counselor Gordon Alexander, prior to leaving, he was the Ward 7 counselor. He was requesting that, I'm not sure if it was a study or some type of review of the sidewalks, the way they were set up in Ward 7. So once you go past Hamden, going down towards Mountain Park, the telephone poles are restricted on the sidewalk, so it makes it harder for walking with strollers and stuff. He was looking to move the telephone poles out more towards the road in order to have a true sidewalk.
That should slow down traffic too.
Well, then that led to, he said, when they redid Northampton Street and paved it, they didn't do towards the sidewalks correctly. I guess there's a pitch or the way the water runs. And those type of answers he never got back as to the cost of moving the sidewalk out or the poles, ton of poles.
Yeah.
And to when they redid this resurfacing of Northampton Street, when it came to the sidewalks, what ultimately they're gonna do to fix that, because it wasn't done correctly. We're still waiting for those answers, so
Okay.
seeing how that's here.
I can get those answers, but we've talked about that would be our entire Chapter 90 budget.
Okay. So
Almost.
that's what we're looking
And that's
for.
just, that's off the cuff. That's saying we would.
No, we know it'd be huge. We're just, problem is, people keep asking for it. They want to hear the number.
I can get that.
I'm not telling you to blow the Chapter 90 money just to address, an estimate on what it would cost to actually kind of try and do something like that.
Sure.
Is fine. Yeah, go ahead, do stuff.
Can we go back to City Hall and the demolition of the old police station?
Sure.
I just want to see how the handicap issue will be taken care for this building, because I don't want to take care of the demolition and then have another problem. I just want to make sure that you come back with a plan or something that this building will be accessible to the handicapped folks out there, because that's the only way that they can come in.
Can't they use the elevator downstairs? Because that's usually the way I come in.
Well, no,
But
he
it-
makes a good point, yeah.
But if they take the police station down, how they gonna get in?
Right.
And that's gonna cost some money. I just wanna make sure they
Yeah.
don't forget about that piece.
No, I don't think we could forget about handicap access into the
Okay.
building.
All right,
Tear down the parking lot, and then we'll have to put in a new elevator.
well, I don't want, I mean, hopefully you will remember.
That is a good
You
point,
park
though.
in the garage.
Because I keep thinking that is the bottom.
Yeah.
No,
I guess on the bottom two would be the Tip Gat and Front Street Extension, Cabot Gateway Improvement, Design Build, Jackson Street CSO Project, seeing how we
Oh,
took up the
talked about
grant.
that.
And then demolition, 1 million for non-CBG, so blighted buildings.
We tried
School
to get rid of
projects,
it.
400,000 improvements for, do we know what school projects at all? I know you're not the school
Yeah, I
project
don't know
buddy. Did you happen
what
to know,
school
or-
projects those are. I think the MSBA normally funds roofs and heating systems and things like that.
Do we have a list of the potential buildings we want to take down for $1 million?
I think the $1 million would be a start.
Do the
Yeah, but do we
rest.
have a priority list? I mean,
Damien probably does.
Yeah. There's the problem property group in the city. And they meet regularly to go through all of that stuff. I know there is definitely a list of buildings.
And we already talked about the Jackson Street, the Cabot Gateway, am I reading that right?
Cabot Gateway improvements, this is, infrastructure improvements on Ray Street to Cabot, and then Cabot to the Willimantic Bridge.
3.5 million?
What are they gonna do?
Roadway improvements, so
Put that in sidewalks.
it's currently being designed. We're using Chapter 90 to start the design of that.
Just the canal walk type of thing?
It's similar,
Yeah.
but it's, I think it's called the Gateway City Improvements. It's to try to help out bicycling and pedestrians, street lights.
Buy a
There's
lot of
two.
bikes for 3.5 million.
There's two traffic signals.
I'd have to see more of that before I voted on that.
Do they have a plan in place for it already? I know you said they're designing, but they have something to show?
We just finished the survey for the base plan. So we're really in the beginning stages
So
of
in the
this.
very beginning stages.
And the hope is that if it's not on the bond, that it could become a TIP project.
So I guess the 3.5 is to really redo whatever is envisioned. Can we get grants to kind of help build the plan out?
Well, we're using Chapter 90.
Yeah, and that's gonna be
Design.
done when? When's the whole plan gonna be ready for review?
I would say a year.
The 1 year, so I guess, what does the 3.5 million deal with then?
That would be the construction cost.
Of something we were waiting for a year from now to see?
Because we know the length of it. So using the length, we can estimate how much it would cost.
Okay, it's not you. I mean, we just saw what estimates did to us on one project, and this is a year out. Okay, that's good to know.
What did he say anything about the 391 park?
Yeah, that's for the cleanup
Oh, okay.
of that.
Clean up a park.
391 cleanup, that's a lot of money.
Okay, is there anything else?
Just another thing that I just remember, Mike, the city council have been asking, I mean, to see if we can get some of the photos back in the hallway of City Hall. I mean, $750,000, a lot of money. So I'm pretty sure that we can use some of that money if we approve it to get those pictures out again in the hallway. So I just want to make sure I mention it.
To touch on that,
Didn't Bartley bring that up yet?
Well, Bartley brought that up last week at the
At the
ordinance
committee.
yeah, we've batted that around for a long time.
Yes, I just
Is there, maybe you don't know, is there a hidden reason why they don't want to put the pictures up? Did they lose pictures? Is it too hard to hang them up now because of the redo? I mean,
So Bartley brought that up on Tuesday. I haven't had a chance to talk with anybody about it.
if there's a
It's
reason,
on my
I mean,
list, yeah. I don't know why.
I know, not you. Is there anything you want to add to this that?
Not at this.
I'm not saying add to the number, I'm just saying. Is there stuff that, to you, you see a priority for these trucks? Or, I know we kind of went through that, but
No, I think
something that you
the
really,
fleet vehicles, that would be great.
okay.
If we could get, Pardon me?
The loader?
Well, the trash trucks and the recycling.
Trash trucks and the recycling.
Okay.
Okay.
And the roof, right?
And the roof for the
And
building.
you got it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a masonry building, so with the leak, and we set up buckets, but
No, okay.
It's not good work conditions with mold and,
no, it's not.
All right, so all the stuff that we did ask for, you'll try and get us, I mean, what do you want, 2 weeks? Give them time?
Oh, well, how much
What's
time
good
do
for
you
you?
need? Yeah.
What's good for you?
I'm not really sure how much time. 2
Okay.
weeks would
I
be
would
good.
give them a month.
Well, okay,
Timeframe?
well, no,
The thing is, we're
let's,
gonna have to vote on it.
He's just a
What's
new
your
guy
schedule?
with a lot of work.
no, that's why I'm saying what,
Well, what's your schedule? When were you planning on?
we're gonna
voting?
do another meeting to bring in. Did we get everyone?
The voting machines are,
Voting machines. We can bring in the clerk for that. We still need answers to a lot of these problems, so, I mean, well, that's, I guess the question would be is we can bring the clerk in on that and whoever else we want, maybe Damien on the buildings, the demolition of the buildings. 3 weeks, good. I mean, if you can't make it, you can't make it, I get it.
no, if you tell me 3 weeks, I'll get the answers in 3. If you tell me 2 weeks,
Yeah, the best you can.
I'll get the answers in 2 weeks.
No, let's give you 3 weeks. You have a lot on your plate right now.
So do 3 weeks to
Keep this moving, though.
Yeah, we are. We're gonna try, that's why I don't wanna delay it. I wanna keep it
Okay.
going. That's why we're going,
So, yeah, 3 weeks.
okay.
Well, I mean, if he can do it in 2 weeks, when do you want to have a next meeting?
Well, we're gonna discuss that in a second.
Well, let's discuss that, then we can just tell him how much time.
So, well, you guys want 2 weeks or?
Yeah, then 2 weeks, and maybe he can bring that information in for that meeting?
Okay, and we got the calendar up?
That is the 12th. Correct.
Yeah, let's do 12th.
Well, we'll have to confirm with Ryan, make sure the date's open. I'm pretty sure it is, but we'll,
Either the 12th or the 19th.
but also we have the assessor stuff coming up too. So this is all contingent. So the 12th and then, so it'd be the 19th is the next one?
Yeah, that's probably a better date.
Fa la la. So.
Meeting the 20th, right? Full meeting.
Yeah. So we can take up on the 12th and the 19th. So try for the 12th. If you can't, because you are busy and we get it. You say, Todd, the 19th would be a lot easier for me, then and I'll confirm with Ryan if either date is open.
Okay.
Plus, we have the assessors, so depending on that stuff, that has to go in.
That's gonna all get crammed in.
So just try for the 12th. If you can't, we know we can go to the 19th.
Okay.
Gives you more time. And then at that same time, we can bring in Damien for the buildings, get a list of the buildings, as well as the clerk to get an answer on what they need.
Sounds good.
Anything else, or? All right, so I'll check those 2 dates. Hopefully, the 12th is open. If it's not, we'll have to fall back to the 19th. But then understand that the assessor issue might depend on how that washes out this week.
Can you follow up with Ryan just to see if we can get whatever we need from the Parks
Parks, yeah,
Department?
that's a big.
Yeah, I'm
As of
gonna,
today, I'm not voting for any of that.
Well, that's, I
Any
know, I
projects
mean,
in
that
that?
is what, the 3rd time she walks in here with.
okay, all right,
Yeah,
we'll,
just see if you can get it.
we'll get that info, I promise. So you're all set. Thank you once again
Yeah,
for
thank
coming
you so
down
much.
and
Thank you.
for all the info.
Thanks, Mike.
And with that, I'll make a motion to table it, to continue it to.
Have a good night.
info.
Yeah, I second that.
Second that.
That's second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Got a lot done.
Okay. So I'll confirm with Ryan what date works, and then I'll email and text you guys.
Text us or
Yeah,
whatever.
because,
The time is good for you. 6:30. Okay, maybe we'll switch this already.
Yeah, keep cranking it out.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Everyone have a